fun stuff to try out. Hello, yes, welcome to a long-awaited video. My apologies. Life! What is it like? It gets in the way of everything. I'm going to play with some new toys today. A Manpa 2-inch triangle cutter that I'm going to use on my Proxon long neck angle grinder. And thanks to my visit to Lynn at the Jo Sonja stand at the Newark show last weekend, I've got some new pearlescent paints to try out. And that's not all that will be making its premiere appearance in this video. I've got a new respirator. Separate video on that later. Right, so we are going to now start the texturing. There you are, the texturing. Snazzy, isn't it? Right, so we're into voiceover territory because I haven't figured out how to get the sound nice and clean for you with the powered respirator on yet. So you just saw me woggling my fingers, making the point that that backhand should remain behind the wood at all times. This cutter went through wood as if it wasn't there. It would do the same to our tender bodies as well. So I've done the texture all in a similar sort of direction, parallel lines, rather than the usual radial approach that I've used or random jagged. I just wanted to break it up a little bit. It did give the cutter a very easy first run out as well, because cutting with the grain you would get the cleanest cuts anyway. But I did no sanding of this surface after it had been textured. It really did cut very beautifully. One of the things that I noticed when I was looking at the colours on the Jo Sonja stand at Newark last weekend was the way they glowed and were a bit brighter when they'd been put on over white. So another break with my usual approach. Instead of putting ebonising lacquer on, I put some white gesso on instead, which did allow the colours to look very bright, but also left quite a bit of white behind that was uncoloured. Maybe I should have done a better job with putting the colour on, but you know my spirit of adventure and play, and my famous lack of patience, attention to detail, ability to complete things. I left a bit of white behind. We'll see what it looks like in the close-up pictures later. So just putting it on with a paintbrush, straight from the bottle. No need to thin it down in any way. If you do want to thin it down, then make sure you don't use water. That will weaken the colour. Use an acrylic medium. The Jo Sonja one is called Flow Medium. Well worth having some of that in. Second colour over that blue-green is blue. So this one, not such a colour shift. I didn't need as much because I was only going to put a little bit of this on. Although, well, we'll see. Let me know in the comments. It might have been better to do the whole thing blue-green. But you know I can't stop with just one colour, even if that colour is actually two colours at once. So some blue, a bit darker. You can see it going on in patches, in little gaps there. And then I'm following that up. You can see it in the picture on the left with this violet colour. which has got a very nice pearlescent-y sheen to it. I wasn't sure how that would work, so the only way to find out is to do it. And as you know from all my previous videos, that's mostly what I like to encourage people to do. Have a go, see what happens. Everything comes out in the wash, so to speak. So you can see there's a nice sort of sheen with the purple on the palette. A bit harder to pick up in the image here with the video going on. And I also decided I didn't really like the white round the edges, so I need to cover that up. And the first colour I decided to try to colour that up with is this violet. Can't say it worked pleasingly enough for me. Didn't fill me with too much joy, but I did prefer it to the white. But there's still not enough contrast in those colours for me. It's all a little bit flat. I need to make it pop in some way. How could I do that? Not another colour, surely. What would that colour be? Orange. I suppose it's a bit close to gold, but it's on the opposite side of the colour wheel, so it's going to get a nice contrast, and you can see there how that contrast really lifts the whole thing, and brings a bit of warmth and light into it. Now, only a few little touches of that. Maybe that last one was a little bit heavy, and well, it's playtime. Here we go. Finishing touches coming on into the final straight, and it's the foam brush and black paint. Now, I think this really lifted it and finished it and framed the colours in a much more interesting way. You'll notice I've got a couple of beads on the inside of the texture. They didn't particularly work very well. I edited that bit out. The problem with them was putting colour on them and then having a bead with a bit of colour just sticking into the rim and into the bowl and not looking very neat. So I went for a clean edge. But I do need, if this were to be a keeper, to have a definite transition point rather than the texture just running into the bowl. Usual finishing on the inside, sanding to 240, cut and polish, and then the buffing of the cut and polish to break it down and sand it. Cleaning up around the outside edge, and another one just about finished. Still covered with a bit of sanding dust there, and then needing to clean up the back for painty fingerprints. There we go. Not too shabby. So here it is. Project number 2 of 2023, and we're halfway through March. At this rate, you're lucky if you're going to get a dozen videos this year. Right, so you can see the different colours in there. Still images as well. It's got no finish on, and obviously that will improve the shine and the sheen, although I think I would probably go for a satin lacquer with this. The edge is a little uneven. If I were finishing this off properly, I'd do another coat of black. And maybe you can see in here the edge uneven because of the texture running all the way into it. Obviously the texture has to end somewhere. It's probably better not to end going right into the bowl like that. There needs to be, I think, a bit of a transition there. But as I said at the start, this was just playtime again. Having fun, trying things out, new tool, and the finish on this is just superb from that cutter without any sanding whatsoever. Right. Next video, hopefully, you won't have to wait so long. But for this time, as I normally say at the end, thanks for watching.